what makes me qualified for this talk is simply the fact that I use technology a lot, and I studied the topic. I don't have any study-wise expertise on this, but I consider myself to be knowledgeable in the area, and to the level that I want to talk about it today, I know more than enough. This is, some of you might recognize it. This is that X Spectrum. It's a personal computer that came out in 1982, which coincidentally is the year I was born, and it's the first computer I ever used. I have no idea why my parents got it, but it was a 16 kilobyte, no persistent storage PC. If you wanted to play or use it for something, you either had to start it and type the whole program, or you had to have a cassette player attached to it, and pretty much the program was recorded as audio. So smaller programs took like 4 minutes. If you wanted to play a nice game, 15 to 20 minutes of wishing that the audio didn't crack, that the cassette is not, so that it loads whatever you wanted to do. Ever since I laid my hands on tons of computers, right now this has what, 1 billion times bigger memory than this. Even more, I think, actually, twice. So it's 2 billion times. I started my life pretty much without technology, but it was always kind of close by. I got my first iPhone, not my first iPhone, my first mobile phone, I think in my mid-teens, because Nokia 55110, it came out when I was 16. So I remember what it feels like not to have a mobile phone, but I also know what it feels like to have it. When the first iPhone came out, what, 2006, I think, I'm pretty sure I had one of the first like 10 iPhones in Czech Republic. I ordered it back then from eBay with the special chip that you had to put into your SIM card so that it would jailbreak everything. I'm hearing an echo of myself, which is slightly annoying, but I don't know how to fix it from the Jabra. Let's try like this. So I have a lot of experience with technology. I love technology. I work in a technology company. Technology is something that brought great joy and benefit to my life. And as much as I dislike Steve Jobs, and I think he was a terrible person. I mean, he also tried to cure his own cancer with juice. So tells you a lot about him. But he had he got some things right. And let's see if I can actually manage to play this.
I think one of the things that really separates us from the high primates is that we're tool builders. And I read a study that measured the efficiency of locomotion for various species on the planet. The condor used the least energy to move a kilometer. And humans came in with a rather unimpressive showing about a third of the way down the list. It was not too proud of showing for the crown of creation. So that didn't look so good, but then somebody at Scientific American had the insight to test the efficiency of locomotion for a man on a bicycle. And a man on a bicycle, or a human on a bicycle, blew the condor away, completely off the top of the charts. And that's what a computer is to me. What a computer is to me is, it's the most remarkable tool that we've ever come up with. And it's the equivalent of a bicycle for our minds.
I think the analogy of bicycles for the mind is exactly what technology should be doing for you. It gives you something, an ability, or enhances the ability that you already have. It enforces it. It allows you to do things that you weren't able to do before. But I guess the ultimate goal of riding bicycle is that the bicycle disappears. When you're on a bike somewhere, it's you, it's the nature. You're getting from point A to point B. You're getting there safer, more efficiently, but the bicycle itself is irrelevant at this point. So it's a tool that helps you, and it disappears too. And this is what I think, and a lot of people think technology should be doing. And for the longest time, it was actually the goal. But recently, especially if you're like me and you're on Facebook and Instagram, and you kind of like to be involved with technology, or you play computer games, that's a big topic there as well. It's not really helping you that much. It's and if you kind of stop and take a look at yourself, how it changes your behavior, and it does change your behavior. It's not always for the better. There's something sinister around social media, around free-to-play games, around the kind of pay-per-view models. And you're not alone if you feel like this. There's more and more studies with actual data supporting this case, but this is just one of them. It's from April to May this year. It's been run by the iOS app Moment, which focuses on measuring the actual time you spend and the perceived quality of the time you spend. So it's a self-reported study of several 100,000 users. And there's something quite interesting in there. Like, this is always the amount of time the unhappy users, and they're unhappy about the fact that they use the app, are always the ones, except for FaceTime, which is useful because it connects you to real people with real faces. But otherwise, the people who use the apps more tend to be more unhappy. And this can be supported by multiple other studies, but it seems that people actually don't want to spend so much time on it, yet they do spend the time on it. And it's not just reported unhappiness. There's a study now that I think from Stanford or somewhere, that people who lowered the amount of time spent on social media reported better sleep, less anxiety, and other subjective matters. It also, there are several studies on social relations, on actual relationships with actual people, that the amount of time spent on apps like this and consuming content like this directly, inversely correlates with the ability to form actual relationships, meaningful personal relationships. If we take children into the equation, we honestly have no idea what it can do to children's brain. This is all, adult users who somehow should have their brain already fixed enough so that it doesn't really change. But there are other negative effects, and I guess Brexit, Donald Trump, and Andrej Babiš can be seen as direct results of the way a lot of us consume news, and somehow fake news, and all this is pretty much related to the problem. But what I try to look at are several, I think, facts or obvious statements that contribute to why this is a problem. The first one, that immediately this brings us back to mindfulness. It is always now. Whatever you do, it's already like you derive the meaning from it only in now. Past is a memory that I can think of now. The future is something that I can prepare for now, I can think of now, but it will only it will bear fruits when it happens, and it's going to be a different now. It's not this now, but it's a different now. So the way we are built, the way our consciousness works, is that we are in the present. We cannot be in two different time spots at the same time. We're animals, for better or worse. It's been, what, 150,000 years, 200,000 years since we share a common ancestor with apes. So we aren't really evolved for the kind of technology, for the kind of power we wield as a species and as a civilization. It's not just kind of our organs that can extended usage of devices can cause some physical problems. But the thing is, we evolved some traits, some psychological traits like pattern recognition, habits forming, which were useful in order for us as animals to survive the landscape where we were evolved. The current society is not really, it evolved so quickly that the biology had very little time to catch up. We can be deceived, our minds, our bodies, our senses can be hijacked very easily. If you've ever been to a magician's show, they deceive you on purpose. And we're kind of in this weird state where we are animals, so we are susceptible to all this hacking, and yet we are aware that others are animals too, and we can abuse it. So, you know, if you want and you know enough about the animal in front of you, you can take advantage of it and you can abuse it. Out of these two, is the core principle is that if you take attention as some kind of resource, it's finite. It's the amount of people times the amount of their nows, the time that they have waking up that they can focus on. Regardless of how you look at it, you know, you can save your attention. Maybe, you know, you can learn to do things so that they require less of your attention, but that doesn't change the fact that the amount of attention always stays the same, or the maximum attention stays the same. You can maybe subscribe to the idea that you can efficiently multitask. That's pretty much as likely as curing cancer with juice. So you always have this limitation. It's and you know, like, you know, sometimes the attention, the same amount of attention, like when you're, I don't know, skiing, when you're doing some art that you love, when you're listening to music that you want, the value you get out of the same amount of attention can increase, but the attention is finite. We know this. We are a technology company. You know, I'm standing here, and there are what 9 different devices on this table, but it's everywhere. You know, not just this room, but technology permeates every aspect of our life. It used to be in our workplace only. Then it took over our homes, our bodies, our bedrooms, fridge, everything. And I'm not saying this fact on its own is not a. It's simply an objective statement. I don't have a problem with it. I make a pretty good living using and playing with technology and pushing the technology further. Along with the technology comes data. We produce, or we've already produced, we always produce more data, but now the technology is in place to actually capture all of the data, and you know, could be sleep patterns, biographic data, whatnot. But, and I think Roman talked about it in his big data talk a few years back. It's not really nothing new. Like the scale of information grows exponentially, but if I go back to the attention, like regardless of the amount of data, the effect or the benefit of the data is always limited by, it doesn't matter if you gather all the data, have the best algorithms to process it, if there's no one who benefits from it, if there's not a consciousness, a human one, that can somehow make a change in itself because of it. So like we can store all the data we have and never look at it, but that's not really the purpose. It's all getting faster, and again, this closely relates to technology. Processors are getting faster, transfer speeds are getting faster, but it's not just the technological things. It's take fast food. Somehow we figured out as a civilization, as a species, to put fast into food. It doesn't really make sense. And the concept of fast food is exactly because the fast food is you know, it's made to appeal to you, you know, so that you can quickly get it, but it's not healthy at all. It's a very good analogy. And similar things happen in fashion, for example. You know, if you pay attention to the marketing message that's been broadcasted to across all channels when it comes to fashion, you should change your wardrobe at least 6 times a year, I think. It's almost impossible to buy shorts in summer because they are sold in spring. And in summer, you already can buy coats for fall. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We figured out how to grow plants faster. We grow animals faster. And the biggest, it's not me, the biggest, I guess, change is in communication. And here again, it's an ambivalent thing. It's positive because like I have 2 little nephews now, and every morning or every day I get new pictures of the nephews. I don't have to go there. It brings immense benefits with it. But maybe the frictionless communication is not the best. And the last one, which I think lies at the core of all the problems, is that there's no such thing as a free lunch. This is a saying that originated, I think, somewhere around like 19 something in the US, because at the end of the or the beginning of the 19th century, 20th century, doesn't matter. It was quite common that bars offered free lunches if you drank there. So somehow this saying appeared that the lunch isn't really free because you have to pay for the drinks and then you get the lunch for free. And if I look at it, what I'm trying to say by this, things are not free. There are ways that maybe economy can find a way, maybe humanity can find a way, charity can find a way, but that doesn't make the things free. It means that someone pays the price somewhere else. Someone pays the price and donates the thing. It's not a free thing. Someone paid the price somewhere else. And that's an extremely important concept, which, again, for good reasons, is being buried because it sounds much better if you can offer something for free. The same goes for discounts. Discounts are not free. It's the same thing. And it's also, I think, relatively new. Maybe in newspapers it was for a while. The way we pay for things has changed. It used to be that you have money, you don't have the thing. You pay the money, you have the thing. And that's the end of the transaction. There is no ifs, there's no buts, there's no subscription, there is no extra payments you can pay, there's no scalable business model. And for good reasons and for understandable reasons, this has changed. Take music, for example. It used to be that for recording artists, the biggest source of their revenue was the records they were selling, because it also meant that a musician can build a career so that they can actually retire from music making. Like, you make an album, you sell some chunk of the albums, and then you go on. You start recording, maybe you go on a tour, you get some money from the tour, then you go back, you make another album, and you make more money from the album, but the old album is still making you money. So eventually you build up a catalog so that you get royalties without working. This is not the case anymore. Artists that don't tour have nothing. And that's what you see with rappers and everyone, they diverge into other business streams. That's why you have podcasts, you have streaming services, you have clothing lines, because music became unsustainable with the streaming model. Similar with news. You were paying for paper news. Now news are struggling somehow to make ends meet. Yes, there are subscriptions for news, but that doesn't really pay for everything. Software is, and we can see it in Atacama. We were used to selling. We weren't selling box software, but the idea was the same. We sell software for a price. We sell some project around it with it. But now we're looking more into the subscription oriented. And if you look at computer games, the situation there is absolutely bizarre. So in games and on internet in general, we expected, or we grew to expect things for free. But that, as I said, this didn't change. Something else did change. We expect things for free, like YouTube. It's free somehow. And the free model is very closely related to the whole problem that the free stuff that we seem to be getting for free is not free. Someone somewhere is paying. So where is the money from? How do you sustain a service that's free? And again, I have another expert here to tell you. This is Mark Zuckerberg testifying in front of the US Congress this year.
We believe that we need to offer a service that everyone can afford, and we're committed to doing that.
Well, so how do you sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service?
Senator, we run ads.
I see. That's correct.
So this is where the crux lies. And you might think, sure, ads, I have an ad blocker, but ads are a massive business. I mean, what Facebook revenue for last year was $40 billion. It's a free service, or that's what they claim. They claim that we are the users and we get a free service, but somehow, somewhere, someone paid $40 billion for 2 billion users. That's someone, if you're on Facebook, someone last year paid $20 for you. And this is crazy. Why would someone pay 20 bucks for me so that I can use Facebook? And this is where the problem is, because Facebook isn't, and I'm using Facebook as a proxy for a whole class of social networks and services, and it's a whole economy model that is closely related to it. Because, and if you want to know how profitable, you can ask my wife. She works in the ad business. How profitable it is to run ads, how big the budgets are. It is worth to run ads. It is worth for services to show ads. Ads are extremely profitable business. And that goes back to because we are hackable animals. We can be, our behavior not only can be, but is modified. That's a fact. If you're on the internet, your behavior is being modified. You can think that, no, I'm strong. No, it works. And there's a couple of reasons. You're just one animal, and against you stands a multi-billion industry of other animals who are experts in their fields, psychology, UX, and all these things, and they design against you. So the default is you're losing. If there's one thing I want you to understand from this talk, is that if you're not doing anything, you're losing out. And hopefully I'll eventually get to, and Lukáš, especially wherever he is there, he will hopefully equip you a bit with what you can do. Now, if I break down the ads model, it's quite simple, really. How many people, and I intentionally put targets and not users there, because I think it better suits the urgency, and it better explains what I'm trying to get here. If you don't have any targets, then your advice, it sucks. But if you can hit multiple people, hey, someone somewhere will click. That's pretty much the idea of spam. When you have number, you have nothing, and you have no attention of people. That's spam email. And if you're curious how much the numbers are worth, so Facebook bought Instagram in 2012 for $1 billion. Instagram at the time had no commercial model, no ads. There was no plans of any kind to have any. So Facebook simply bought the users, the targets that Instagram was having. 3 years later, 2014, 22 billion for WhatsApp. Again, at the time, and that's still kind of the case, core business model of WhatsApp is end-to-end encrypted, no ad communication. But Facebook paid $55 per user of WhatsApp 4 years ago. So having the numbers pays off. Knowledge, obviously, this goes back to data and everything. The more you know your target, the better is the success rate of your ads. And this is where Google comes in more than Facebook, or Facebook as well. If you think Facebook knows if you're active user, you actually connect to people. Facebook already knows more than your psychotherapist, more than your priest, more than your family. It knows more about you than you know about yourself. And again, if you, an example of what the knowledge is worth. Google search, if you're like me, you go to internet via Google search or the search bar in Chrome. So that means anything that comes to my mind goes through the search window. So Google knows extremely well what I'm interested in. That's why and there was this year, Google this year will pay Apple $9 billion to be the default search engine on iOS. It could be up to $12 billion next year. Again, search is a free service on a phone that you pay for and you pay no subscription for. So Google is paying Apple $9 billion for a free service. And the last one, obviously, is even, if you have all the humanity you can get, you know perfectly well, but no one pays attention to you, then your ads are irrelevant. No one will look at it. So that's why, and this is kind of the core, is that the service needs your attention. It needs to be. That's why, it tries to be in your watch, it tries to be in your bedroom, it tries to be in your fridge, so that it constantly has access to your attention. That's the purpose of notifications, that you wake up, and so that the first thing you do is, hey, someone wrote a post, someone took a picture of their avocado sandwich. And that's why the number and the knowledge, that's why Facebook and Google are so successful. And this term in the equation makes for one thing. They cannot afford to not grab your attention. If they do, because attention is limited, as we know, there's a limited pool of attention. So if you stop grabbing someone's attention, someone else will. So it's a constant battle to the bottom of your brainstem to get to the more animalistic side, so that it hijacks your higher functions, so that you always do something on your phone. And one of my favorite comics, you might say, so why don't you just leave it? Why don't you just quit? Why don't you just, and is it like really that bad? Is it really? Yes, it is. Why can't you just quit it? I already suggested why it's like this. It's because the whole thing, it wasn't like this always. Facebook started innocuously, or it didn't. Facebook started because Mark Zuckerberg wanted pictures. He wanted to, talk to girls that he was too shy to talk to in person, and he wanted to get there. And then he realized people would give him his personal information just for free. But like WhatsApp, and they started, and I joined Facebook 2008. When was it? When it started, and it was extremely useful. I think it opened up a world to me of opportunities that were not possible back then. I traveled a lot, and I had a lot of friends abroad, and the way I could keep up with my classmates from high school, it was genuinely useful. And I rarely go there anymore. It's just it's a mess, and that's because the system is designed with the equation before in mind. This was the attention, and obviously it starts with getting the numbers. This is the easiest, or relatively the easiest, or was at the time. You get the numbers, then this is why it constantly bothers you to, hey, I don't have your birthday. Hey, should you update your profile? And this is notifications. And you can try it. If you start dismissing notifications, like I don't want notifications this time, I don't want birthdays. Facebook will always find that there's categories of notifications you cannot disable. It's constantly trying to get your attention, and it will, because it must. As I said, this is the core principle of Facebook. It's an ad-serving network with social network features. So it's being designed against you. It's like I read somewhere. It's like genetically modified alcohol. Imagine you can have alcohol, and you can, on the fly, tailor the addictiveness. You can tailor the taste, the amount, and it's always with you. Imagine I have always in my pocket this bottle of beer, and it's always full. And it can change on the fly what I want to drink. That's social media. And it's not designed just by anyone. Silicon Valley and the whole startup culture, which I'm not really a fan of. You know, there's I think what, I don't know, move fast and break things. It's one of the statements that sounds immensely cool when you're maybe, you know, in university, you're looking for a job. And like, yes, we want to change the world, but not really. You move fast and you break things. That's where the statement ends. You end up with something that's broken. It's worse off, and you do it quickly. And then you exit, hopefully get more money and invest in more startups that break some more things and so on. And I'm not saying there are not technologies that are great, but the most successful ones are successful ones because they abuse the animal that is everyone. And obviously, just the fact that it's a small group of white, hetero males, 20 to 35, mostly liberal, left-leaning. Just this might be a cause of problem. And with the money they get, they're lobbying. And I heard an interesting talk by someone who was visiting Google, actually, that, and he asked whether the Google employees have any kind of way to check for what Google is lobbying in their name. Google has immense lobbying power, obviously, through the money, through the influence, through everything. But the employees themselves have no way of figuring out what Google as an entity is lobbying for. They have no say in it. So Google is using all this power, and Facebook is doing the same. All these engineers, and lots of them are extremely nice guys, nice girls, and they actually disagree with a lot of what I would be saying here, or they would be disagreeing, but they have no say in what the company is pushing, and they have immense power because it's oligarchy, it's monopoly. Another aspect is AI. And that's, again, if you go back to Instagram, to Facebook, a few years ago, the feed was chronological. Twitter is the same example. The feed was chronological. The feed of, like, so events happen and you have a chronological view of them. That's not the case anymore. For a while you could switch. The default was the curated feed, and you could switch to the chronological one. That's impossible now. You cannot do it with Instagram, you cannot do it with Facebook, Twitter as well. There's no way, no easy way, definitely. Maybe you could somehow grab the data and make your own client, but it's because AI is now sorting. It's the genetically modified alcohol that I was talking about. AI is sorting out what you should see and when and in what order. And the metric is not your happiness. It's not happy marriage. It's not good sleep. The metric is engagement, attention. The metric is they want not just attention is nice, but engagement is better, because that means that you're actually contributing more data about yourself and you're somehow spreading the virus of attention grabbing to other people. And the AI itself doesn't care. So the AI, you know, machine learning, it's simply, there's a lot of data coming in and there's the expected outputs we want. So it tweaks the buttons and only then maybe can we figure out what did it actually tweak. That's kind of the way AI works. And as it turns out, when you see the results of the AI and then you somehow apply psychology to it, you realize that from the metrics of engagement, you get to values that the AI promotes that are just bad, like hate, controversy, conspiracy theories, arguments, not discussions, short, heated, pointed arguments are the best for engagement. You are more likely hate, anger, frustration, envy. All these emotions are way more likely to grab your attention and to get you to be engaged with Twitter. Sure, puppy, fuck it, I'll share the puppy. But fuck it, this idiot is wrong. I will. The negative driver is significantly stronger, and that's again, it's psychology. We know it. We're animals. This is how we work because the perceived danger activates your organism way more than calm. And like if an animal, again, you're an animal, you have limited resources like strength, energy. You want to react stronger to a threat. If you're safe and if you're receiving all the signals of safe, then you'll calm down. You'll be less agitated. You'll be less likely to do any kind of action. So this results in the whole fake news, the polarizing effect that social media has on any kind of political and any kind of discussion. And just one example that I wanted to mention, and Burma, or Myanmar, used to be Burma, was one of the least connected, or used to be one of the countries that had extremely low coverage of people connected to internet, maybe 2012, 11, around the time. Facebook came up with a great idea. They organized, maybe it was in connection with internet.org, that they had this big initiative, let's connect the next billion users to internet. After the 4.5 billion or whoever is connected or was connected back then, let's connect the next billion of users. But how do you do it in a country like this? People won't buy computers, so you do it via mobile phone. So they had this program, I'm not sure what it was. It was called Free Basics. So it meant that they cooperated with cell service providers and to give or to get very cheap internet-enabled phones to a lot of people very quickly, with one catch as well, that the plan you had to pay for data, except for when the data was used to access a limited spectrum of services, Facebook being one of those. So Facebook extremely quickly gathered new users, and new users are new animals, and they're even less likely to be immune or ready to somehow tackle the fact that you're being abused by the system. And it resulted, or it didn't result, that would be wrong to say, but at the same time there were some ethnic problems, and I think it was, I had it somewhere, it was the it was directed against Rohingya Muslims, and it turned out to be that Facebook was the main vehicle for spreading the hate and inciting the ethnic violence there. Even the UN officially blamed Facebook later on, a few years later, for inciting the rage, because the way people were suddenly able to communicate with each other, to share like the crazy bullshit that gets perpetrated, that gets spread on Facebook, like completely fake, racist lies. And it turned out, it ended up with something that was classified as a genocide. Again, I don't want to say Facebook caused it, but it was a massive vehicle for fanning up the flames. Now Facebook's aiming, or it moved this program to Africa, and then it quietly disappeared. But similar things happen in South Sudan, and in India had similar problems with WhatsApp. So there are objectively problems that this causes in the society as a whole. And now back to the good part. This is the initial slide of the presentation that started the whole thing for me, but it can be traced originally to the whole start of the movement. It was created by Tristan Harris, as I said. He is someone who, when he was young, he was a magician. So his focus, his interest as a kid already was people's attention, people's focus, people's senses, and how to fool them. Then he went to Stanford, and he studied in what's called the Persuasive Technology Lab. He got his, I think, PhD and whatnot. Again, focusing on how technology influences human behavior. He went on to create some kind of startup, Aperture, which was later acquired by Google, and he ended up being a design ethicist in Google. And he created this slide deck in 2013, and it started with the following words, quote, "I'm concerned about how we're making the world more distracted, and my goal with this presentation is to create a movement at Google to create a new design ethic that aims to minimize distraction." So 5 years ago, he already knew, because this is what he eventually left Google, and with a few other people, ex-Facebook and other, started something that it was originally called Time Well Spent movement. Now it's called the Center for Humane Technology, and they're trying to start this discussion inside Silicon Valley. It's Silicon Valley insiders who are trying to just surface the problem and figure out both short-term and long-term solution. And there's actually a lot of pushback now within Silicon Valley against this whole Brian Acton, he's the co-founder of WhatsApp, one of the guys who sold WhatsApp for 22 billion. He obviously, as WhatsApp was acquired by Facebook, he was given a large chunk of Facebook stocks, which vested if he stayed in Facebook long enough. He quit earlier this year with around the same time when he published his famous tweet, "It's time, #delete Facebook." And one of the concerns he voiced after his leave, there's a beautiful interview you can read, is exactly because Facebook was constantly attacking his two core ideas for WhatsApp. It's an encrypted end-to-end messaging, and there are no ads. That's what WhatsApp was supposed to be. His idea was that there will be a paid tier, like you will have a limited amount of messages for free, and maybe you will pay. So he never was looking at the ad-based model for WhatsApp. But now, since Facebook is already considering lifting the end-to-end encryption and paying the way for paid content within WhatsApp, killing it pretty much. Alex Stamos, Chief Security Officer of Facebook, left Facebook earlier this year with no replacement. Supposedly, security function is now embedded within the teams themselves in Facebook, citing concerns that he knew about the Russian interference in election. He repeatedly voiced it, and he was punished for voicing those concerns. So Silicon Valley knows, both up and bottom, that stuff is wrong. And the results are coming in. If I want to start somewhere, this January 12th this year, Mark Zuckerberg, one of our biggest focus areas for 2018 is making sure the time well spent on Facebook, or the time we all spend on Facebook is time well spent. Again, it's the key word, time well spent. Facebook actually has a well-being microsite. It's mostly focused on abuse prevention and like suicide prevention. So it's against cyberbullying. Digital well-being Google. Actually, the website is wellbeing.google. So you can read a lot about how they include well-being features into, and the concept of well-being, if I haven't explained it, is the idea that technology is the bicycle for your mind. It's contributing to your life, and that's it. You pay some price for it, but the price is explicit, it's known, and it's agreed on, it's consented. That's what digital well-being is. So Google has a massive well-being. Instagram introduced the well-being features. You can actually scroll to the end of your feed, or at least to a place where it says all caught up from yesterday, but you can still go down. This is iOS 12, the newest iOS, and this is included in it. It's screen time. It can tell you how much time you spend on which app and whatnot. On the other side, the same thing in Android P, which is, again, this is the latest Android, has an app that's called Digital Wellbeing. It tells you how much time you spend on each app. It tells you how many times you unlocked your phone today, and how many notifications you got. And you can set timers so that each app has only an allotted time slot for you every day. YouTube has the same thing. So there is some progress, but if you paid attention to what I was saying, this will not solve the problem. The problem is the core business model. If they do this, someone more aggressive without the well-being features will take over eventually, if they get enough numbers, enough data, and eventually enough of your attention. Checks it. So obviously there's grassroots effort within Silicon Valley. There's supposedly some progress from the brass, from the higher ups, but then there's the third stream, which is legal. And fortunately for us, EU is significantly ahead from US, and obviously legislation lags behind technological progress. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This is probably not going to be, but GDPR, the ideas of consent, that your data can only be used for what you explicitly agree to. The fact that data is your own, your data is, you own it, you only borrow it or you lend it to the services. It's something that strikes very close to the heart of the problem. And again, just a few examples that I have. Google fined $5 billion July this year for Android antitrust because I think the App Store or Google search was native in Android. So the EU is very focused on, because this is what it knows, the anti-monopoly aspect of the thing. Facebook, this is September, this is last month. Facebook faces up to 1.6 billion fine for how it mishandled user data with the Cambridge Analytica breach. In UK, they were fined £500,000, which sounds like not enough money, but that's actually, that was the highest possible amount back then. Again, for the Cambridge Analytica, for Facebook leaking user data to Cambridge Analytica, which was a company that specializes on political marketing, which was hired by Donald Trump's campaign. Which, if you're, Donald Trump actually lost the popular vote. Less people in the US voted for Donald Trump. But the way the Electoral College worked, it worked out. But the margin by which Donald Trump won was around 200,000 people. Nothing when you consider what 250 million is in the US. So there's a high chance that this could have been the deciding vote. And that the small one here is, besides EU really stepping in, and there was just yesterday was the first GDPR fine for some flirt chat Schmoodle or something in Germany. They just got a bizarre little, again, because they were storing user data and passwords in a plain text file. You have to start somewhere, as in you. It's a warning shot, and why I have this none of your business, and why NO, why B. It's a Austrian-based non-profit with the strike of GDPR, and they're focusing on the data protection, European Center for Digital Rights. As soon as GDPR hit, they had complaints ready for Google, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, and they're suing them for forced consent because, and this is again a big topic. I can send you whole studies about how the idea that the consent should be explicitly obtained is manipulated by, like the no is hidden between like 7 levels of clicking, whereas yes is the first big button. So they're arguing for things. So to wrap it up, the same 6 things that I was mentioning at the beginning are back. There is no such thing as free lunch. Don't expect to get stuff for free. You will not get stuff for free. You will pay, or someone else will pay. Figure out what the commercial model is. The commercial model, follow the money. Where the money comes from, that's where the problem is. Like, pay for stuff. It took me a while to realize this, but if you like a service, pay for it. Only then can you expect to be a customer that has any voice in what the service and the whole industry is heading, especially for games, pack loot boxes. The world is getting faster, so slow down, do less things. Again, this is very counterintuitive. Do less things. You will miss out on things, and that is okay. Again, you will miss out on things, but that's okay. Do things that you genuinely like. Take the time to figure out what you like and spend the time on it. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to see every single post by every single one. You don't have to read every newspaper. You don't have to see the 3rd video on 9/11 conspiracy. You don't. You can, and that's why YouTube is showing it to you, but don't. Don't expect complicated things to be solved quickly. Look for nuance and the idea of friction. Just because you can quickly get something sorted doesn't mean it's good, that it's beneficial for you or for the counterparty. And I have a nice quote. I don't know where it comes from, but friction creates space in the system where judgment can intercede, where second thoughts can be had, where decisions can be made. So take your time and just do things properly. This is exactly what Lukáš will be talking about. Put some barrier between you and the technology. Read books and protect your data. Exercise your rights as a EU citizen and as a citizen. Your attention is finite, so choose where you spend it. Don't, and time spent, how is it? Doesn't matter. No, spend it on things that you genuinely want to spend them on. It might take a while to realize, to figure out, but ignore the things that try to grab your attention. Build obstacles so that your attention cannot be snatched so quickly. You're an animal, again, both ways. You are an animal, so expect yourself to be hijacked, to be abused, to be hacked, to be modified by external factors. Realize that you are not immune to the system. The system is way more way better design than you have any idea. And it's getting better, faster than you will. You will not evolve to be a better human. You can learn, but you can just accept it. And the other thing goes for other people. Know that the other people are animals as well. They have their flaws, they have biases, they have habits that they don't want to have. And act accordingly. So prefer deeper personal discussions over heated, short, remote ones. And it is always now, so be mindful. Practice the muscle that is your mind and the skill of being genuinely you at the given moment. Whatever it means. This is not saying that you should change, but figure out who you are. It takes time. Technology won't help you. Like, yes, you can get some apps for it, but it will be the offline time, the alone time, the time where you're close with your parents, with your loved ones, with your kids, with books where you're not with anything. That's the purpose of meditation, is that just the moment itself is enough. And you can learn, if you practice the muscle long enough, you can learn to choose not to get angry. You can choose not to get frustrated of things. You can choose when to be happy, pretty much. Obviously, it relates, or it depends on external factors, but a lot of it is like this. Various kinds of stress and anxiety and interpersonal or communication problems are caused not in between by the way you communicate or by the person on the other hand. It's you. The common factor in all your relationships is you. If you fix this, you fix everything around you. So that's it.